Before working on your Aventon Ramblas, remove the battery to prevent any electrical charge from running through the bike. Use your key to unlock the battery and remove it. Remove the drive side crank bolt with an 8mm hex wrench, turning it counterclockwise. Thread in the crank puller to the crank arm. Thread in the crank puller until it stops, then begin to turn the inner stud by turning the outer handle clockwise to press the crank off of the spindle. Next, release the tension on the derailleur to remove the chain. Use the Park Tool LRT-2 on the chainring's center lock ring. Hold the chainring in place and rotate the lock ring clockwise to loosen. The lock ring is reverse threaded. Once the lock ring is off, the chainring can be removed. Move to the non-drive side and remove the non-drive side crank bolt by turning it clockwise with an 8mm hex key. The non-drive side crank bolt is reverse threaded. To remove the crank arm, repeat the same crank removal steps used for the drive side. Use a Torx T10 wrench to remove the two bolts on the motor side cover. Remove the side cover. Use a 2.5mm hex wrench to remove the 4 bolts of the lower motor cover, then remove the lower cover. Use a Torx T40 wrench to remove the 6 bolts that mount the motor to the frame. Carefully lift the motor from the frame to access the cable connections. Disconnect the main terminal plug by pinching the buckle to release the plug. Then, disconnect the 3 remaining round plugs by gripping the cable end and pulling straight down. Locate the white plug connector and disconnect it. Use a 3mm hex wrench to remove the 2 bolts that hold the terminal as well as support the battery cover. Remove the terminal. Use a 3mm hex wrench to remove the 2 bolts on the lock assembly and then remove the assembly. Use a 2.5mm hex wrench to remove the 2 bolts on the cable cover in the battery compartment. Remove the cable cover. Remove the stem of the bike using a 5mm hex wrench to remove the top cap bolt, then a 4mm hex wrench to loosen both of the stem clamp bolts. Unplug the display connection from the wire harness. Lift off the stem and handlebar, the headset spacers, and then guide the fork out of the bottom of the head tube. Move the cable spacer from the upper headset dust cap and then remove the headlight harness from the head tube of the frame. Swap the headlight harness. Feed the male end of the new headlight harness into the dust cap and the head tube of the bike. Arrange the upper female end of the harness through the dust cap and then refit the cable spacer of the dust cap back into place. Replace the dust cap onto the headset while simultaneously reinstalling the fork steer tube from the bottom up. Replace the headset spacers, followed by the stem and handlebar assembly. Reinstall the top cap and spacer assembly. Using a 5mm hex wrench, snug the preload bolt and align the handlebars straight with the front wheel. Alternate tightening the two stem clamp bolts with a 4mm hex wrench until both are torqued 8 to 10 Newton meters. Reconnect the display to the display harness by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing the connections together. Arrange the cables through the down tube into the open motor compartment of the frame. Replace the cable cover in the battery compartment and reinstall the two bolts using a 2.5mm hex wrench. Reinstall the battery terminal into the down tube of the frame using a 3mm hex wrench to install the two terminal mounting bolts. Reconnect the white terminal plug, followed by doing the same steps to reinstall the battery lock assembly at the upper end of the battery compartment. Insert the key during installation to assist in the alignment of the assembly. Torque the lock assembly and terminal bolts 3 to 5 Newton meters. Next, install the Aventon A100 mid-drive motor. Reconnect the corresponding cables. Make sure the colors correspond, the arrows align, and the plugs snap into place. Carefully guide the motor back into the opening of the frame, ensuring no cables are crushed or pinched. Reinstall the 6 motor mounting bolts with a Torx T40 wrench. Pre-thread all 6 bolts and then fully tighten each with a torque of 20 to 25 Newton meters. Install the lower motor cover. Use a 2.5mm hexagonal wrench to install the 4 bolts for the lower cover. Torque 1.5 to 2 Newton meters. Install the side motor cover using a Torx T10 wrench to reinstall the 2 cover bolts. Torque 0.8 to 1 Newton meter. Next, reinstall the left crank arm. Find your non-drive side crank bolt marked with an L. The bolt is reverse threaded. Tighten by turning the bolt counterclockwise to a torque of 40 Newton meters. Reinstall the chainring lock ring using your Park Tool LRT-2. Apply a small amount of grease to the lock ring threads and thread it on by hand. The lock ring is reverse threaded. Tighten by turning the lock ring counterclockwise. Hold the chain ring firmly with your left hand and do not let it rotate. Fully tighten the lock ring to a torque of 30 Newton meters. Install the chain onto the chain ring. Reinstall the right crank arm with the remaining crank bolt marked with an R. Ensure to position the crank arm 180 degrees opposite the other crank arm's orientation. Reinstall the crank bolt and tighten it to a torque of 40 Newton meters. Test to ensure the drivetrain is working properly. Reinstall the battery. Insert the battery cover and lock it into place. power the bike on to confirm all electrical components are functioning.